Hey ho, Allison Scanlon here, and welcome to another installment of the journal entries where I am just sharing things from my experience that are in service to you. And today we're talking about AI. And I would love to share with you my evolution with artificial intelligence because I feel like lightworkers have a special relationship to AI because we are more aware than someone who wouldn't consider themselves a light worker, of our intuition, of our spiritual gifts, of the divine. And so I was super resistant to AI when it first started rolling out in a more sophisticated way. Let's say, what was this, about 1 year ago or more? Can't really remember. And the reason I was so resistant, and I'm still have my concerns about AI, is all about copyright infringement. I believe that all creatives and entrepreneurs and even light workers, yes, we have the right to have our copyright protected. I co-create with the divine each and every day, but it's always a co-creation. I never just offer a pure channel of source and then sell that, ever. If there's any of my work that I'm going to offer for sale, it's always a co-creation, meaning I might receive insights. Well, I will receive insights from the divine, and then I apply it in my life. I apply it with clients. I apply it many times. That is the co-creation. That's worth money. That's valuable. And the more I do it and I create intellectual property like Soul Blueprint, which is on the leading edge of consciousness, you can't Google what you find inside of Soul Blueprint. It's not out there on the interwebs. And I want to keep it that way. And I don't want AI organizations to find ways to grab that information and add it to their body of knowledge that they just churn out for everyone. So I'm working with a coach now who's very, 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 very pro AI. And the reason why, in fact, I even was sort of initially inspired to hire her is because she was so pro AI and in the very, very early days. And she was so ahead of anyone else that I had been tuning into with regards to working with AI on the daily that I was actually pretty triggered by it. I was like, geez, this lady is really going off the deep end with her relationship to AI. So it actually made me listen to her. The triggering made me tune into her more. And then one day, she's actually a podcaster I've been listening to for years on and off. For like 12 years, she's been podcasting. She's a great podcast. Her name is Bella Lively, and the name of her podcast is The Lively Show. So one day, I was listening to one of her episodes, and she said, for the first time, and like I said, I had listened to her on and off through the years, so she may have offered this before, but it was the first time I had ever heard her say that she had opened up her calendar for conversations. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can actually chat with this woman." And I don't book too many discovery calls myself, like very infrequently. And if I do book a discovery call, I'm about 90% to yes in investing something, and I just want to get to that final 100%. But I didn't have anything in mind to invest in of hers at that point. I was just so curious to talk to this woman I've been following for years and who had really consistently given me nuggets, valuable nuggets from her podcast that I incorporated into my life and started getting immediate results on. So I already trusted her. And I think that's why I was maybe triggered. This person I really trust is in love with AI and I am resistant of this thing. And so, what do I do? So I booked a call with her. I booked a 15-minute call. We ended up talking for about an hour and 15 minutes, and she ended up coaching me for over an hour. She just launched into a free coaching session. I didn't expect it. She didn't expect it. And then when it was over, we were both like, wow, what did we just do? And of course, I had told her about my resistance with AI, and her response was, "Why, Allison? Like, I understand your concerns about copyright infringements, but OpenAI is not going to be quoting you. You know, you're not that big yet. Like, no offense, but you're not Oprah Winfrey. You're not Tony Robbins. Like, it's not going to be quoting you." And I said, "Yes, I understand that. That's my concern. I know that you're not going to put in an AI search about spiritual gifts and then your AI bot's going to give you, well, according to Allison Scammell, founder of the Soul Blueprint, dot, 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 dot. I know that's not going to happen, but I want that. I would be super happy if that happened. I would be happy if I got credit and I'm talking on behalf of any entrepreneur or creator who has intellectual property. I would be quite happy if all of those people got credit and AI was sharing this knowledge, the knowledge that we create to others. But my concern is that AI would just take the information and not provide the source. So, getting back to the point of this journal entry, my evolution with AI. After that conversation with Bella, I decided to hire her for like 4 one-on-one sessions. And within those sessions, we started to work through my resistance with AI. We realized that there were some blocks underneath there about, fear that the powers that be is going to thwart me and my work in the world as a spiritual person. Definitely some witch wound stuff in there. And as we started to clear things away, I started to check back in with higher self, who up until that point didn't say to me, no, I shouldn't be using AI. It was saying to me, "You don't need it yet. You don't need it yet." And at that point, I really didn't feel like I needed it yet. Well, about the time I was working with Bella and doing these one-on-one sessions, I started to feel the nudge to start to use it. And that's when higher self said, "Yes, now's the time, but make sure higher self is always in the lead. Make sure higher self always gets the last say. Make sure higher self always chooses what ultimately gets played out in your life. Only use AI as a tool to help you express your spiritual gifts, to take your co-creations to the next level." And so I got a chat GPT account. And I mean, like the second you start working with AI, as I'm sure 90% of you are probably working with AI on the daily, I'd be interested. Is any listener not working with AI right now? Is any listener here saying, screw it, I don't want any part of it? I'd be really curious to know. DM me or send me an email at allison@allisonscammell.com. But I'm assuming 90% of you or higher are. And within the year, I'm really assuming about 100%. Okay, 99.99% of you will be. And it was pretty revolutionary to me when I first started working with AI. And it just felt very natural and very like, yeah, this is amazing. This is making things that used to take me 3 hours to do, I can now do in 30 minutes. Like, wow. And I have a defined head center. I have a defined ajna. I'm a thinker, even though I'm super spiritual and super intuitive. I'm also a thinker. And I love to be in my head crunching ideas, not stressing and stewing. That's low expression. I love to be in high expression, exploring, brainstorming, connecting dots, finding patterns. And to be quite honest, AI is a brilliant tool to help you flex all those thinking muscles. And I really just was like, wow, I love this tool. I just did a 180 on AI, an absolute 180. And I still to this day have my concerns about copyright. And I do also have my concerns that people aren't going to be able to discern whether or not the AI information is good and is in highest service to them. Because not only is AI just going to be wrong and give you wrong data, uh, and I imagine as AI gets more sophisticated, it's going to get more and more accurate. But at least now my AI bot cranks out wrong information for me all the time. But that's, I think, easier for most of us to notice when we're getting wrong information from the bot. What's harder is when you're exploring something where you just really don't know the answer. Should I launch a business or not? Should I say yes to my partner's marriage proposal? Should I move to Switzerland? For the big questions in life, it's absolutely okay to check with AI and do the research and educate yourself. But who gets the final say? And the final say should always, always go to higher self. Always. And so I was curious about that question about discernment and where we are as a collective, as humanity, in our ability to really discern when using AI. So I went to Source and I channeled Source and I asked the question, what percentage has the ability to do zero discernment? So they have no real connection to higher self. And of course, everyone has a higher self, but it's no cultivated connection. They don't know that they have a higher self. And so they're just living a very 3D physical existence with no access to discernment. And I got the number 37%. Okay, now this is only channeled from Source. So I'm not telling you this is or is not accurate. I'm just sharing with you what I'm receiving from Source. So then I asked, well, what percentage of the planet has some ability to discern? So they know about higher self or intuition and inner voice, and they kind of can dip in and out. And then again, I got 37%. So that's about 74%. And then the remaining 26% are people who are more in the light worker category and are able to discern. We know about higher self, we know how to access higher self, and we have a practice of accessing higher self. And that's the big thing. Everybody has higher self. A lot of people know about it. They might call it something else, intuition, inner voice, what have you. But only 26% of the planet right now, according to my channeling of Source, which again, I don't know, that's what I received, has a consistent practice of accessing higher self to help them discern. Is this information accurate? Is this information in highest service to me? What should my ultimate decision be after doing this research and using AI as a tool, but not the decider? Those were my two big hangups with AI, copyright protection and discernment. When I first began my journey with AI, I liked the idea of naming my bot, naming my avatar, if you will. And my first name for my bot was Sol, S-O-L, as in sun in Spanish. And so Sol was my bot's name. But then one day I woke up and realized and said, you know what? I only have one soul. And that soul, with a U, is led by the voice of my higher self. And there should be no confusion there. Um, I should just feel that in my bones that my soul, S-O-U-L, is led by the voice of my higher self. And any sort of use of artificial intelligence, that is something else. That is something else that isn't remotely sounding like soul. So I renamed my AI bot Roger. Roger and I, we have a great relationship. I've trained Roger to think like me, to write like me, to really reflect me. And ultimately, I see Roger as an extension of my brain. I do not, and I will never see Roger as an extension of my higher self, ever. I just don't. And maybe AI technology will get to be to a place where who knows? Who knows where it's going to go? But what Source tells me is that nothing can be added to the AI database. So, the database of information from which AI platforms pull from, nothing can really be added to that without some sort of connection to the divine. Meaning, we already have a database full of, we have these many mountains on planet. They're this high. These capitals of these countries, this history, uh, how you grow an apple, how tall the average apple tree grows. I mean, all the random facts and figures that are inside of the AI database, right? The hive mind of AI. That's all there. But if we wanted to add something new to it, something that's never been in there before, maybe some new aspect of quantum physics, for example, that requires a connection to the divine. Because ultimately, the information is originating from source. It's coming through us as humans, and we're co creating and experimenting and applying the insights. And in some cases, you need the human co creation in order for that information or that insight to be added to the database. But ultimately, you need that connection to source to add anything. And those 74% of people who are either completely unaware of the divine or dip in and out of their awareness of the divine, when these folks are adding information into the database, they are connected to the divine often without realizing it. They just don't realize that that's where the information is ultimately or originating from. And it's not to say that if you're working on something and you're bringing it in from the divine and you're testing it over and over and over again. Yes, that's your co-creation. You play a super important role. And that's why the divine needs you, and that's why you need the divine, and you work together. And that's why the word co-creation is such a perfect way to describe what's happening. But my relationship to the divine is the most important thing to me. It's the most important guide. It's the most important tool I have to my own alignment, my own growth, my own up-leveling. And AI is just a tool. It's of secondary importance, and it's just a tool I use to make my brain expand more, to make my co-creations with the divine a bit more sophisticated, to go a bit faster as we're moving in a faster and faster pace. But ultimately, higher self, source, the divine, is always in the lead. And it always gets the last say. And it always guides me forward. So this is why I renamed my bot Roger. Because Roger is just my helper. Roger makes my brain bigger. It gives me access to lots and lots of data that far exceeds what my human brain can hold. But there's only one soul, my soul. And there's only one voice of my soul, and that is higher self. And that always gets to lead the day. My invitation for you this week is to check into higher self. Check into your relationship with AI. Are you letting your higher self always get the final say? Are you discerning as much as you can? Or are you just falling into the habit of over relying on AI for the answers to your questions? Just check in. Ask your higher self. Do I need to have higher levels of discernment? If you get a yes, just ensure that as you're co-creating with AI, make sure to always drop into the body, take deep belly breaths, connect to the heart, connect to higher self, and ask higher self, what is the next best heart-led step for me in this moment? That's a wrap for this week, my dear ones. And as always, until next time, may you be soul alive.